At one point in this movie, I thought to myself, man, this movie is really stark in contrast, as if it were based on a graphic novel or something. Yeah, turns out it is, but I didn't know that going into it. So I guess well done on the part of the filmmakers for getting that tone across. Doesn't mean it's a good thing, but well done nonetheless. Polar is a bloody mess of a movie about an assassin who is 2 weeks away from retiring but gets roped back into doing one final job that ultimately ends up with him becoming the target. Look, when I say it, it makes it sound like a dozen other movies. But this one might just be worth your attention. The movie stars Mads Mikkelsen as Duncan, also known as the Black Kaiser, who is basically John Wick on steroids. All Duncan wants to do is retire to a nice, quiet lifestyle in his Montana cabin, but his employers just won't let him. Here's the thing with this movie. I called it stark before, which was a nice way of saying completely jarring. Most of the time, it feels like two completely different movies. On one side is Duncan, in his cabin nestled away in this absolutely breathtaking spot at the base of the Rocky Mountains, where he is doing his best to just live a very simple life. He meets a nice neighbor, he wanders through the town. Hell, he even goes and rents a couple movies from those rent-a-movie boxes where you could just get one at a time and bring it back to the same box. Do we even have those still anymore? I think I saw one at the grocery store. That is all very calming, relaxing, and enjoyable. Those scenes are then interrupted, quite frankly, by scenes with the bad guys who are trying to find Duncan. Those scenes can only be described as scenes that have been directed by Oliver Stone on even more cocaine than usual after sucking back about 15 Red Bull. The bad guys in question are this motley crew of misfits that stick out like 5 sore thumbs. And they are some of the most vile and repugnant characters ever. All of their scenes are filled to the brim with anxiety and stress. Those might be the same things, but in this case, it is all under the guise of excitement. Now, together, that little mix really keeps you on the edge of your seat. It is jarring, though, which makes it noticeable, which I didn't think was the best thing. I didn't want to be thinking about specifics like that, but it's also not the end of the world. The filmmakers do an incredibly good job of just setting up these horrible scenes that in the end just make you want to see certain characters get it. And the payoff in this movie is here in spades. I mean, I guess that kind of works against the movie a little bit because it ends up making it predictable. But honestly, it just ends up feeling like justice has been served and you actually have that huge feeling of satisfaction. And that's really what you want in a movie like this, where it's a movie that drags you down such a dark hole. Mads Mikkelsen is phenomenal as always. He's so good, in fact, that it's actually just his presence alone that makes the tone of the movie shift, or at least gives the illusion of it shifting. The best way I can explain what I mean is with the opening scene of the movie. In that scene, the 5 bastard spawn of Satan are introduced to us as they absolutely just demolish Johnny Knoxville in an unapologetic cameo. The scene just plays out way over the top. When you see it, you'll know what I mean. And it just sets this tone for the movie where I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a movie like Smokin' Aces or Savages. Almost immature, childish violence that is just so over the top you can't take it seriously. But then, as soon as we are introduced to Duncan, the tone comes crashing back down to reality, for the better, and we are able to attach ourselves to this character and relate to him, and that is all because of Mads' performance. He is a force on the screen and an absolute joy to watch. Of course, he eventually crosses over with the absolute madness of those other characters, because of course he does, that's the whole point of the movie. But even then, he keeps it very easy to cheer for him. That kind of makes him sound like he's like this huge hero. No, he's very much an anti-hero with huge flaws, but he is our anti-hero. This is an absolutely bonkers movie that does end up making sense when you do know the source material. But even then, it wasn't what I was expecting. Now, I don't know what it was I was expecting, but it wasn't this. Is this movie good? Yeah, it's well acted, well directed, and it has a style that, while it is similar to others, it definitely makes a stand and a very convincing argument for why it matters here. The thing is, though, the movie is incredibly violent with some absolutely repulsive characters, and I could easily see some people being put off by that. I'll give Polar an 8.5 out of 10. It's worth a watch if you like stuff like the movies that I mentioned earlier, and it's also worth it for Mads' performance. It's incredible. I'm starting to think he's like the new tour de force that I just wasn't aware of because this movie came out in 2019. The juxtaposition in the movie, if that's what they were going for, I think ends up working against it in the long run, and the ending is just so-so. I'm assuming that, not knowing anything about the graphic novel it's based on, but it's probably based on like volume 1 or something. It definitely ends with a setup for a potential sequel. Now, whether we get that or not, I don't know. And I could be completely wrong. This could just be where the graphic novel ended and there was never a graphic novel follow-up. I'm gonna stop saying graphic novel because it's really out of my realm of expertise. So what about you guys? Have you seen Polar? If you want to check it out, it is on Netflix. So give it a watch. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.